Today we're playing Blaze. Blaze is based on a Slavic card game called Durak and takes around 20 minutes to play. As long as you have 3 to 5 players aged 10 and older, you can play this fast-paced card game which encourages players to be the first to get rid of all their cards and earn points by betting on the loser. Let's check out a setup for 3 players. Each player takes their 3 betting cards in one player color and places them face down to the side of their playing area. Next, prepare the 2 stacks of feather cards, 1 for each round. Round 1 is labeled A and round 2 is labeled B. For this 3-player game, we'll only use the lowest values, 2 and 1, for the first round, followed by the 3 and 2 for the second round. Place these 2 separate stacks to the side with the highest value on top and put the remaining unused feather cards back in the box. The playing cards range in value 1 to 9 with duplicates of each number in each suit, which there are 3 of: red, yellow, and blue. There are also special cards called Firebirds, 2 in each suit. In a 3-player game, return all playing cards of value 1 to the box. Now, shuffle all the playing cards and deal 5 cards face down to each player. Split the remaining playing cards into 2 face down decks roughly the same size. Place one of the stacks in the middle of the playing area as the draw deck for the first round. Set aside the other stack. Flip the top card of the round 1 draw deck face up and slide it under the deck at 90 degrees so the color is visible to all players. This card determines the trump suit for this round. Place the 2 feather cards with the A on the back next to this stack. Blaze is played over 2 rounds. Each round consists of 2 phases. In the first phase, players challenge the player to their left, attempting to overwhelm them with excess cards. However, the player to the target's left can support the active player in their attempt. The goal of the challenge player is to reject all cards played by both the active player and the supporter. At the end of any challenge, players must draw back up to 5 if they have fewer than 5 cards. Once the draw deck is depleted, the first phase ends. Phase 2 is all about getting rid of your cards first to earn the most valuable feather card. But before Phase 2 begins, players place 1 bet on another player at the table. After the last feather card is drawn, round 1 ends and preparation for round 2 begins. Play is similar to round 1. At the end of the game, players count their earned feather cards and correct bets. Whoever has the most points wins. The challenge begins when the active player plays any card from their hand. They place it between them and the player to their left. This player is the target player and has the option to reject the challenge. The active player can play any number of cards with the same values already played before. As well, the player to the left of the target player becomes the supporter of the active player and may extend the challenge at any time, following the same rules. Once the first card is played down though, the target player has a decision to make: reject a card or pass. Passing means that the target player must take all cards played into the challenge into their hand, and they lose their next turn. Or if the target player manages to fully reject the challenge, all the cards played are then discarded from play. The target player can try to reject a card by playing either a card of the same suit with the same or higher value, or by playing any card of the trump suit. Each rejection card is placed face up opposite their corresponding challenge card. Rearrangement is not allowed afterwards. The active player must begin the challenge playing only 1 number from their hand. However, if the target player rejects a challenge card with a card that has a different value, the active player and supporter are allowed to extend their challenge with those numbers as well. Whenever there are unrejected cards, the target player must decide to reject them or pass. The active player and supporter do not need to play cards until the target player has made their decision, but they could. And at any time, the target player may decide to pass and not reject any more cards. I pass. After the target player passes, the active player and the supporter may still play challenge cards. The target player, however, can't rejoin and reject any more cards. This situation initiates a real tug-of-war between the active player and supporter. They can only play down a maximum total of 5 cards in a challenge. The active player always takes priority, though, when playing cards. The target player must take all the cards from the challenge into their hand. Then all players involved in the challenge draw back up until they have at least 5 cards in their hand. Lastly, the target player who passed must skip their turn as the active player, and the supporter now becomes the new active player. If a target player has fewer than 5 cards in hand at the beginning of a challenge, the active player and supporter can only play up to the number of cards in the target's hand. If neither the active player nor the supporter can or want to extend the challenge, and the target player has rejected all played cards, all cards played in this challenge are placed on a face-up discard pile next to the draw deck. After a successful rejection, the target player becomes the next active player and challenges the player to their left. There is a special card that has a unique value depending on if you're the target player or on the side of the active player. It's called the Firebird. The Firebird appears in all 3 colors and doesn't have a fixed value. It acts as a value 10 if played by the active player or supporter when challenging. If played by the target player, however, its value is 0. As the target player, you may reject a non-trump card with a Firebird card of the trump suit. Its value is still 0, and now the active player and supporter can play Firebird cards of any suit as value 10 if there is still space in the current challenge. Play continues challenge by challenge. A challenge ends when the target player has either rejected all cards, in which the cards are discarded from play, or has passed and taken all the cards in the challenge into their hand. Once the draw deck is depleted, trump card included, the first phase ends. Place the feather cards with the back A in the middle of the playing area, face up, and highest card on top. In the second phase, players attempt to get rid of all cards in their hand as soon as possible to win the most valuable feather card. However, players must place their bets first. Before continuing the game, each player bets on who they think will be the last to still have cards in their hand and will lose the round. All players simultaneously place one of their betting cards face down in front of the player they have selected. If you lose the round, meaning you come in last place, each player who placed a betting card in front of you takes it back and adds it to their scoring stack. If you have not lost the round, take any betting cards that other players placed in front of you and add them to your scoring stack. Play in Phase 2 is just like in Phase 1, with the active player challenging the player to their left, and the player to the left of the target player acting as the supporter to the active player. After resolving a challenge, players who have no more cards in hand take a feather card from the stack. In clockwise order, starting with the active player, each such player takes the topmost card and places it next to them. Once the last feather card is drawn, round 1 ends. Resolve the bets now that you know who lost the round. Players collect their incorrect bets in front of themselves which were played by other players and add them to their scoring stack. The owner of a betting card with a correct bet, though, receives their correct bet as points in their scoring stack. To set up for round 2, players shuffle all the playing cards used in the first round. Deal 5 cards to every player face down. Put the remaining cards back into the box. Place the draw deck that was previously set aside for the second round in the middle of the playing area. Flip the top card of the draw deck and place it face up under the deck, rotated 90 degrees. This card determines the new suit for round 2. The loser of the first round becomes the active player for round 2. When this draw deck is depleted, players place their second round of bets and resolve phase 2 in round 2. The game ends after resolving the bets of the second round. For their final score, players add the values of their feather and betting cards in their scoring stack. The player with the higher sum wins. As you can see, Blaze is a quick, fast-paced card game with straightforward rules. However, this classic card game is one with clever timing and communication between the active player and the supporter, as well as knowing when to pass or reject cards as the target player. Enjoy playing!
Yeah.